In February of 2019, I set out to go explore Africa on a mission trip with 3 men from our church. We flew from Evansville, Indiana to Atlanta, and then from Atlanta, we set flight on the 10th longest flight in the world. That flight went from Atlanta to Johannesburg, South Africa. The flight is scheduled for 16 hours and 50 minutes, and it is over 8,400 total flight miles. On the flight, there were all kinds of movies to watch, and we did get 3 meals, but still there's not much to do in 16 hours and 50 minutes. But eventually, we landed in Johannesburg. After we landed, we went through customs and then explored the airport for a while. The airport has an observation deck where you can oversee the whole tarmac and runway, and we sat there for a while watching a lot of the planes come in. Our flight to Harare, Zimbabwe, didn't leave for a few hours, and so we wanted to spend some time exploring the airport. But eventually, we got on our plane to Harare and then left South Africa. Once we arrived in Harare, after we got settled in, we headed to a restaurant to eat. And we met up with some of the other guys that we were going to be spending the next week with. The first few days in Zimbabwe, we stayed at Harare Christian College, and every day we would have tea. While we were there, we took a tour of the surrounding area of Harare and some of the suburb areas. It was amazing to see the different landscapes of Zimbabwe, and it was fun to see all the people and the locals that were there. It was a pleasure to get to experience their culture and to see how they lived. But after our tour, we headed back to Zimbabwe Christian College, and here's just some video of our accommodations and where we stayed. This is the church on campus, and this is one of their classrooms. As you can see, and you will see again later in my video, the people of Zimbabwe love music. And all the students that I encountered there were very dedicated to their studies. Later that next day, we also took another tour of the surrounding area around Zimbabwe Christian College. I was just amazed by all the rock formations that dot the countryside of Zimbabwe. They were all amazing to see. But the thing that makes Zimbabwe the most special is the people and their culture. Later, we met some more people from our group and had another nice lunch. Before we left Harare, we had a huge barbecue with all of the students there, and then just had fun spending the afternoon with them and enjoying getting to know them a little bit better. Some of the students even put on a play for our enjoyment. After the play, I walked around the campus a little bit more and took some more pictures. I wanted to show you the keys that they use for the doors there. This is a suitcase of all the ties that we brought to donate to the students. And then here's a picture of my room where I stayed during my time there. This is the small common area where we kept our snacks and food. And then just a picture of the bathroom and the tub area. There are not many showers in Zimbabwe. After we left the Christian College, we headed to Chiredzi. And here's just some view of our scenes along the way. As you can see, there were more rock formations that just dotted the landscape. And this is an ambulance that we saw on our way to Chiredzi. And these were just some people and vehicles and buildings that we encountered along the way. It was just amazing to see all the sights. A lot of people travel by bus in Zimbabwe. And these are just a few of the buses that we saw as well. One of the places that we loved to visit and eat was a chicken place. They also had some pizza and Pepsi. Once we got to our accommodations in Chiredzi, we had to cook for ourselves most of the meals. While we were down in southern Zimbabwe, we drove out to the bush to see some of the schools that our mission supports. The students were amazing. They were so respectful. They all wore uniforms, and they loved having their pictures taken. They loved selfies, and every time you got your camera out, they wanted a picture. We visited several schools that day, and every one of them was amazing. But traveling there was also quite an experience. We passed many sugarcane fields traveling out to the bush, and this is just some picture of sugarcane. Then we went to the Runde River. The Runde was a huge river that travels through Zimbabwe, and we spent some time down by the riverbank. And as we continued traveling, we continued to see many rock formations that dot the landscape of Zimbabwe. I was just mesmerized by these rock formations. Here's a picture of our accommodations while we were in Chiredzi at the missionary house. This is our room. We had 3 people, each with a single bed. And this was the kitchen where we prepared our meals. That next morning, we went to visit another school, but this time it was a school in the city of Chiredzi. And just like the day before, these students were so well behaved and courteous. They considered it a privilege to have such a school to study at. This is a picture of the health clinic that they are building out in the bush. And this is another school. Later that night, we went to visit an orphanage that the mission supports and had dinner with all the kids. And again, they loved taking pictures, and I enjoyed being goofy with them as we took selfies. Zimbabwe is famous for its baobab tree, and this is a huge one on the grounds of the orphanage.